Your words are not just words, they are instructions to your brain. So if you start saying, hey, welcome to Wow Words of Wisdom, this is the podcast where we talk about all things mindset, all things confidence, and taking action, even when it feels scary. I'm Sharon McCaffrey, and if there's one thing I know for sure, it's this. Your mindset shapes everything, the way you think, the way you show up, the way you go after what you really want, and it all starts in your head. So if you've ever felt stuck, doubted yourself, or wondered if you're really capable of more, you're in the right place. Each week, let's break through those mental blocks, shift your perspective, and start making things happen. So today, guys, I want you to buckle up because what we're going to talk about here today is about something that can literally change your life, and that's your words. And before you roll your eyes and you start thinking like, oh great, another one of these like, positive vibe only talks, I do want you to hear me out. Your words they're running the show, whether you realize it or not. They're actually setting the tone for your career, they're setting the tone for your relationships, your bank account, and even the way you feel when you wake up in the morning. So if you're watching this podcast on Spotify or on YouTube, you'll probably notice that we're in a different setting. I'm in my office here in Belfast for anyone that's wondering where we are today. So if your life isn't giving you exactly like that you're the main character, you probably need to change the script. And I want you to think about, have you ever met somebody and like there's when you talk to them, it's like, they're, of how are you getting on? It's like, oh, I'm struggling. I can't seem to catch a break. I'm too busy. It's like, or there's maybe like, and if you look at them, maybe it's the fact that how they're narrating their life because they're making it sound like a tragic documentary. Whereas on the other hand, and you meet people whereby it comes across like they're always so lucky, but maybe that they're not lucky. They just tell a different story about their lives. This is where I want you to understand that your words are not just words, they are instructions to your brain. If you keep saying, I can't, your brain finds reasons why you can't. I remember probably one of the most valuable lessons I ever had when I was an 8-year-old child in primary school. I remember there was this mathematical homework that I had to do, and I was never a fan of mathematics. And the irony of it is now it's probably one of my favorite subjects. The teacher was like, getting us to go through our homework. And I turned around and I said, I can't do that, miss. And she turned around and she said to me, she says, Sharon, there is no such word as can't. You are choosing not to. And that's a long, long time ago. And I still remember that lesson. Started become more mindful of saying can't to yourself, because what you're doing is you're training your mind to find reasons then why you can't do it. On the flip side, if you start saying, I always figure things out or I'll find a way, well, guess what? You will find a way, you will find a solution. So let me ask you, what was the last time that you actually listened to the way you talk to yourself? Do you listen to the way that you talk to yourself? What's the story you're telling about your life? The first thing that I want to touch upon is that words are a little bit like spells. So, and you want to speak wisely. Your mouth is basically a magic wand. So every word that you say, I suppose it casts some sort of a spell. It's either a success spell or it's a doom and gloom disaster spell. And common phrases that we can keep getting stuck in, and I'm going to give you some ways to flip these as well. It's like, a common phrase you'll hear people saying is, I have to. All right. I have to go to the gym. I have to go to work. I have to do this. I have to do that. But you want to flip that in your mind from that I have to know you get to. So instead of saying I have to go to work, I get to go to build my career. I have to go to the gym. I get to go to the gym. I remember, in the gym that I used to be in, there used to be this guy. He was one of the happiest people I knew, and in the gym most mornings, and he was in a wheelchair. And when I used to be complaining to myself about having to get in the treadmill or having to go in a spin class, I used to look at him and I used to think to myself, he can't get to do that, and I can. So that really helped me to gain the perspective and flip it in my head that I actually get to go to the spin class. I get to go on the treadmill. When you're saying that you have to go to the gym, there's people out there that would love to be able to go to the gym, but they can't. And another typical phrase that we use is I'm not good at. You want to add to the end of that sentence yet. So let's say you're saying, like I'm not good at public speaking yet. Another one is like, you're constantly saying I'm broke or I can't afford that. That's what you're training your brain to think rather than flipping to like money is on its way to me. Okay, because those words of saying I'm broke or I can't afford something, those words keep you in scarcity. Another one, and it's a bit of a pet hate of mine, is I'll try. Okay, I really do believe trying is a bit of a loophole for failure, because if somebody's trying, they're not really committing, I believe. So instead of saying I try, like no, commit or quit. That's how I look at it. So and just think about it, imagine like if Beyonce turned around and said, like, oh, I'm going to try and perform well tonight. No, she's not going to say that. She's just going to go out and she's just going to do what she needs to do. She's going to commit. So the takeaway is like change your words, and then you're going to change your power level to actually go up. So the next thing that I want you to think about is I want you to think of your words like being a little bit like a GPS. So it's a little bit of a GPS of your life. So your words are kind of like setting your destination. So they work like a little bit like, like the GPS in your car. If you say, I'll always fail, you're literally programming your mind to drive you straight to failure. If you say, I figure things out, your GPS will actually reroute you to success, no matter what the roadblocks or the setbacks are. And, I want the listeners here, I want you to think, what's the one phrase you say to yourself every day? Is it taking you to where you want to go? Like in my office in Belfast, one of the things I used to hear guys saying that was like, when I would say like, how are you? How's your day? And they go, oh, I'm struggling. And, or not bad. And I'm going like, that's not really sending out like a massively positive message. And if you're saying that you're struggling, well then that's what your life is going to become, as a struggle. And we had practice for quite some time every time, and they came in and they said I was drum and go like, no, let's change the narrative. But have you changed the narrative? So ask yourself, what are phrases that you're saying to yourself over and over that may be stopping you from going where you want to go? What you need to remember is that your subconscious is always listening. So you need to make sure that it's eavesdropping on a winning conversation, not a negative one. And you will have to you have to it takes a bit of work in the beginning to catch yourself of what you're actually saying to yourself before that you can reprogram what you're actually saying to yourself. Guys, if you're struggling with this, what I would ask you is like, would you talk to a friend like this? All right. So imagine that your best friend came to you and they were feeling down. Right. Would you say, yeah, you're probably going to fail at this. You might as well like quit now. You're not smart enough for this. No one is ever going to take you seriously. No, you wouldn't. So then why the hell would you talk to yourself like that? So the next time that you say something negative about yourself, I want you to stop. What I say this to my best friend. And I remember once being at a Roxy Nafusi workshop in Dublin, and she done a very, very powerful exercise where she got us to go through, it was an inner child exercise, and she got us to talk to our inner child the way that we talk to ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And the room erupted with people crying and emotion and stuff, because we understood that you wouldn't speak to a young child the way that we speak to ourselves sometimes. So if you are struggling, you try do that scenario in your head and play it out, and you'll find that you wouldn't typically do that. And the bottom line is that, but if you wouldn't say it to a young child, you wouldn't say it to a friend, then don't say it to yourself. End the story, just don't say it to yourself. And then look at the final part is like the words that you say out loud matter. So I'm very mindful of what I say out loud, whether it's to other people or just even me on my own. Like if I ever say the word hate, like I'll take it back straight away, because I think it's a really strong, powerful word that isn't positive. And to me, and say like, oh, like I don't know, like that, I hate my dinner. Like that's like it's not that bad that I hate it, but hate is a very, very strong word. So I want you to think a little bit about like science behind all this. Your brain like follows the words you repeat. This is an actual fact. Olympic athletes use verbal conditioning before competing. So the conversations that they're actually having with themselves. So if you keep saying I'm not confident, your brain will believe it. But if you keep saying I'm figuring it out, you're rewiring your brain for success. So a few exercises and things that you can do. I know I've spoken here before about affirmations, but this is why affirmations are so powerful, because they are the actual words that we're speaking to ourselves. So I want to start my morning with affirmations, and you can write them down, or if you want to say them to yourselves, but you want like a power statement. So start your day with something like, I am confident, I am capable, I am building the life that I want, rather than like moaning or complaining about the things that are wrong. The next exercise that I want you to do is I want you to reframe complaints. So instead of saying, I hate my job, I want you to say to yourself, this job is teaching me skills for my next move. And what you want to do is you want to rehearse success. Okay. So before a big moment, say, I've got this. I always rise to the challenge. So, and it's these positive words are actually going to play out in the long run over time, that you have to actually practice it. You have to become aware first of what it is that you're saying to yourself, catch yourself, flip it with positive, but then you have to keep practicing that so that it becomes more your norm than the negative, like self-chatter. So just to leave you with a final thought, your words are the script of your life. If you want a better life, you have to change the script. What I would love if you guys could do is if you can tag me on Instagram with one word or phrase that you are going to change today. And obviously you can leave a review and on this episode, that would be great. And please do share this with someone that you think that it would help. And I hope you have a wonderful day.